OK Ko is one of Cartoon Network's best but underrated and overlooked cartoons. This show is one of the most beloved, and despite being so good, very few people know the ending and the whole story. But in this video, I'm going to take you through all 3 seasons and 112 episodes of OK Ko, and you will understand the whole story. A long time ago, in the world of OK Ko, there appeared some orbs called glorbs that could give power to anyone, and this completely changed humanity, and power cards were created. There are even cards where you can see the power level of each hero and villain and their stats, called POW cards. For a hero, the higher his level, the better, and for a villain, the more negative his level, the more powerful he is. Let's meet Ko, a very optimistic boy who wants to be one of the greatest heroes in the world. Although his power level is 0, he loves to learn, help others, and make friends. He lives with his mom, Carol. She's very powerful with level 11 and has a very interesting past. Also, Rad and Enid are Ko's friends. Enid has level 3 power. She is the most responsible person of the group and always tries to use her logic. Rad is an alien from planet X. He has a 2nd level power. He's funny. He doesn't like to show his emotions, and that's why he's a bit arrogant. There are many more characters and secrets we need to see, so let's get started. In the first episode, Ko is excited about becoming a hero while waiting for his mom, Carol, to take him to her dojo at Lakewood Plaza Turbo. Carol explains that his babysitter, Punching Judy, is currently fighting a fighter called the Flu. Ko is thrilled about the idea of heroism, and when they arrive at the plaza, Carol tells him that all heroes had to work hard to get to where they are. Ko assumes Mr. Gar, the plaza's manager, was always a level 11 hero, but Carol reveals that wasn't the case when she first met him. At the plaza, Mr. Gar arrives and assigns work to his employees, Rad and Enid. Carol greets her students at the dojo but needs to grab their attention, so she breaks a wooden plank. She then sends Ko to buy more planks and allows him to get something for himself. Ko heads to Gar's bodega where he meets various heroes and selects hero gear, including a laser sword and a towel cape. He trips and meets Rad, who brags about being a level 2 hero. Rad shows Ko fake photos of his heroism, which Ko believes are real. Ko also meets Enid at the checkout and shares his dream of becoming a hero. Outside, a robot named Daryl, sent by Lord Boxman, attacks the plaza. Ko is knocked out, but has a dream of defeating the robot. He wakes up to realize he's far from becoming a hero. Mr. Gar finishes off the robot, and Ko decides to work at Lakewood Plaza Turbo to learn how to be a hero, taking it one step at a time. In the next episode, Ko rambles excitedly about Rad and Enid's fight with Daryl from the previous episode, expressing his desire to become a hero. Enid explains that being a hero requires hard work, and Rad mentions that fighting Boxmore robots is part of the job. Ko is shocked to learn that Lord Boxman continuously sends robots to attack the plaza because he hates friendship, which lowers his sales. Meanwhile, at Boxmore, Lord Boxman, disgusted by the trio, throws Daryl's head into the furnace and creates a new version of him. Boxman continues ranting about his hatred for the bodega. Shannon, another robot, presents a plan to attack the plaza. Back at the bodega, Ko pesters Rad about becoming a hero, but Rad explains that it's not easy. Ko offers to help Enid with her job, but she and Rad dismiss his attempt, resulting in him unintentionally causing them to get hurt. Feeling dejected, Ko leaves and is tricked by Shannon into infiltrating Boxmore. Rad and Enid realize Ko is missing and track him to Boxmore, where Ko is captured by Lord Boxman. Boxman tries to convince Ko that Rad and Enid don't like him. However, Rad and Enid show up, defeating Shannon and expressing that they enjoy having Ko around, solidifying their friendship. This distresses Boxman, but Ko is overjoyed. Back at the bodega, Mr. Gar scolds Enid and Rad for leaving their posts, but ultimately agrees to give Ko a job after Carol convinces him. Ko is thrilled, and Enid gives him a vest as his uniform. Ko excitedly performs a power punch, impressing Rad and Enid. In the other episode, Ko excitedly begins his first day at the bodega, but accidentally punches Joe Cuppo while striking a pose. Inside, Enid is overwhelmed by customers and closes her lane in frustration. Ko, eager to help, is tasked with cleaning the bodega and sorting through a penny dish. He tells Enid that helping others is his job, and he tries to convince her that it's rewarding. She, however, remains skeptical, saying that helping doesn't pay off. Determined to prove her wrong, Ko goes around the plaza helping people. He first assists Joff and Nick with a pickle jar, then helps Mr. Logic fix a haircut, and finally solves a problem for a real magic skeleton by placing Brandon in a soundproof display case to stop his drumming. Ko then encounters Red Action and her crew, but they trick him into walking backward into a lava pit as a prank. Red Action posts a photo of Ko online, and Enid shows him the post, explaining that they were laughing at him, not with him. Ko realizes that Red Action's behavior might stem from her frustration over a bad haircut, so he takes her to Mr. Logic for a new hairstyle, which she loved. Ko then helps Drew group with fashion advice and boost Greg's self-esteem by framing their valedictorian certificate. Although Red Action and her crew still find KO's helping ways strange, Greg later comes to the bodega to thank him. Enid begins to see that helping others can be rewarding, and she and KO share a laugh, with KO feeling proud of his efforts. In the next episode, KO is walking and singing on his way to Gar's Hero Supply and Bodega after school when he notices a mysterious figure lurking around Lakewood Plaza Turbo. Curious, KO searches for the person and, after mistaking some tiny dinosaurs for the culprit, discovers that the mysterious figure is actually Dindy, a classmate. Dindy explains that KO doesn't seem too affected by his surroundings, bringing up his fascination with tow trucks after their class field trip bus broke down. She asks for KO's help with fixing her hack pack, and KO eagerly agrees. Their first stop is Logic Cuts, where they need to obtain a dilation circuit. Mr. Logic refuses to help them, but offers free haircuts instead. Dindy notices that Mr. Logic's clippers are a Logic Model 3000 and smashes them, extracting the dilation circuit. She then optimizes the clippers to be more powerful than before. Next, they head to the Neo-Rama Game Center to get the second item, a copper pewter alloy disc. KO tries to pay with coins, but accidentally releases his collection of moths, leading him to chase after them. Meanwhile, Dindy rewires the token machine to dispense tokens, securing the alloy. For the final item, a glorb, Dindy suggests dismantling Mr. Logic's shop. KO disagrees and proposes checking the alley where the bodegamen discard faulty robots. As they run through the parking lot playing tag, KO slams into the gate of the alley. After climbing over, he finds a glowing orb inside a junkfish, which activates and pulls him inside. Throughout the night, KO punches the inside of the junkfish while Dindy records data, but KO eventually injures himself. Fearing he might not make it, KO asks Dindy to make a will, mentioning his PAL card collection. This sparks Dindy's interest, and she reveals that she also has a PAL card collection. Excited by the idea of trading cards, KO becomes reinvigorated. Dindy uses her hack pack to reprogram the junkfish, ejecting KO. Afterward, Dindy confesses that her hack pack was never broken, and that the entire quest was a ruse because she wanted to become friends with KO. He isn't upset, instead telling her that he had a great time and inviting her to check out his PAL card collection. When Dindy reveals that she has a rare Professor Venomous PAL card, KO is ecstatic. They play another round of tag, and Dindy adds herself to KO's list of allies, solidifying their new friendship. In the next episode, KO takes a long time ordering food from Burrito Beardo, holding up the line for Chameleon Jr. and his gang. Chameleon Jr. mocks KO, but KO misinterprets the insult as compliment. Rad encourages KO to zing back, leading to a back and forth until Chameleon Jr. challenges KO to a fight. KO wins when Chameleon Jr.'s tongue gets stuck to Beardo's truck, and Chameleon Jr. then claims his dad could beat up KO's dad. KO replies that his mom Carol could beat anyone since his dad is absent. Chameleon Jr. arranges for his dad, Chameleon Sr., to fight Carol. At the fitness dojo, Carol is disappointed in KO for escalating the situation. She explains that instead of fighting, she'll try to resolve the conflict with word. On the roof of Gar's Hero Supply and Bodega, Carol attempts to make peace with Chameleon Sr., but he insists on fighting. Carol initially dodges his attacks and tries to reason with him, but after Chameleon Sr. insults KO, Carol fights back, sending him flying. Just when Carol thinks the fight is over, Chameleon Sr. sneaks up and attacks again, scooping Carol up with his tail. KO jumps in, offering burritos to stop the fight, but Chameleon Sr. swallows him. Inside Chameleon Sr.'s stomach, KO accidentally drops the burritos, causing Chameleon Sr. stomach pain and forcing him to spit out KO. KO then unzips Chameleon Sr.'s rubber suit, revealing a man in boxers and socks. Chameleon Sr. explains he wears the suit to be the best lizard dad, but Chameleon Jr. admits he just wants his dad to protect him. The two walk home together. Carol advises KO not to escalate situations he can't handle, and they both ground themselves for their roles in the conflict. However, KO convinces Carol to unground themselves for ice cream. In the other episode, KO, Enid, and Rad are suspended over a pool of lava as Lord Boxman begins detailing his evil plan. However, he's repeatedly interrupted by a timer, a watch, and eventually the smell of something burning, his dinner. Distracted, Lord Boxman leaves to attend to his burnt chicken and tries to salvage it for dinner. Later, Professor Venomous and his minion Fink arrive at Boxmoor for dinner, which makes Lord Boxman even more flustered. Boxman keeps running back and forth between entertaining his guests and dealing with the bodegamen. He tells the heroes he'll handle them after dinner. Meanwhile, KO frees himself and helps Rad and Enid escape from their binding. While Rad wants to leave, Enid plans revenge. Fink dislikes the dinner, and while Lord Boxman tries to keep things under control, the bodegamen disguise themselves as chefs to sabotage the dinner. Chaos ensues as pies are thrown back and forth between the heroes and Lord Boxman, who eventually builds a pie-shooting bazooka. Just as Lord Boxman fears Professor Venomous's reaction, Venomous surprises him by asking for a turn with the bazooka. Enjoying the chaos boss more than the dinner party. Venomous mentions he only came to discuss their business relationship, but finds the pie fight more fun. He hints that he might buy Lord Boxman's robots if they're entertaining enough. The bodegamen, covered in pies and thrown out of Boxmore, concede defeat as Lord Boxman hugs Venomous, only to get punched by Fink with a glove. In the next episode, the episode begins with a flashback of Carol and a young KO meditating near a pond. KO struggles to focus, distracted by a fly. Back in the present, KO faces off against Daryl but fails to perform a power fist and is saved by Rad and Enid. After the battle, Mr. Gar congratulates Rad and Enid, but only says good hustle to KO, which leaves him feeling deflated and frustrated. KO is tasked with cleaning up the debris and, in frustration, throws his broom, which is caught by a mysterious figure. The figure offers KO a way to gain power, leading him into the forest. The figure, revealed to be shadowy figure, tells KO to channel his anger. KO becomes more enraged, eventually transforming into TKO, a darker version of himself. TKO returns to the plaza and destroys a large Daryl, impressing Rad and Enid. The next day, TKO is cold and distant, and when Rad and Enid try to cheer him up, he becomes angry and challenges them. TKO punches Rad into space and battles Enid until she reaches Carol's dojo. Carol and Mr. Gar try to calm TKO, but he becomes even more enraged. As TKO prepares to attack Carol, KO fights him inside their shared mind and locks TKO away. KO wakes up, apologizing but not remembering his action. He reveals the mysterious figure's POW card, which glitches to show a negative power level. Carol scolds KO for following a stranger, while shadowy figure watches from a distance, saying soon, before disappearing. In the next episode, Lord Boxman, frustrated with himself, is interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Blight, an efficiency expert who proposes a plan to pollute the planet for profit. She unveils her ozone killer, a device that emits smog and pollution, covering the earth and causing environmental disasters like flooding in the Lakewood Plaza parking lot. KO notices that strange weather and is joined by Kwame, who gives KO, Rad, Enid, and other power rings that represent earth, fire, water, wind, and heart. They summon Captain Planet to stop Dr. Blight and Boxman. Captain Planet temporarily disables the smog machine, but is weakened by Boxman's robot cannon, causing him to revert into the ring. The group fights, but KO uses the power of heart to reunite them. After a montage of cleaning up the plaza and installing solar panels, they summon Captain Planet again, and he defeats Boxman, blowing up the factory as Blight escapes. Captain Planet warns KO that, despite their efforts, the battle against climate change has been difficult and real-world problems persist. In the next episode, KO, Enid, and Rad close up the bodega as Carol arrives to pick up KO. Mr. Gar, blushing nervously, spots Carol and greets her. Suddenly, Steamborg shows up to attack, identifying Carol as Silver Spark and Mr. Gar as Elbow. Just as Steamborg prepares to punch Mr. Gar, he has a flashback of his time with Carol in the Point team. In the flashback, the Point members, including Elbow, Silver Spark, and Laser Blast, successfully defeat an army of Mecha Lizard. During a break, Elbow contemplates confessing his feelings for Silver Spark, but learns from Rippy Roo that she's dating Laser Blast, leaving him insecure. The team is called to an emergency meeting by Dr. Grayman, who shows them dangerous orbs with destructive power. When one of the orbs explodes, Dr. Grayman loses his powers. Laser Blast suggests finding more of the orbs to use against enemies, but Foxtail insists on disarming them. Laser Blast, Silver Spark, and Elbow go on a mission to recover the orbs beneath a donut shop. Laser Blast, concerned for their safety, tells the others to stay back. Elbow uses a sandwich analogy to explain how great of a team they are, but Silver Spark only sees him as a friend. Before Elbow can finish, a black hole forms, and the shop disappears, leaving Silver Spark to blame Elbow for ruining her chance to save Laser Blast. Back in the present, Carol lunges to save Mr. Gar just before Steamborg's fist hits him. Mr. Gar, disoriented, begins to apologize for the events of the past, but Carol, now more understanding, forgives him, acknowledging that they both would have been lost, things had gone differently. The two team up, charging up their powers and delivering a combined strike to Steamborg, destroying him. After their victory, they share a hug. Carol then prepares to leave, but heads to her dojo first. Inside, she secretly communicates through an earpiece, informing an unknown person that everything's under control and that no backup is needed, before ending the call. In the next episode, at Lakewood Public School, KO and Dindy are trading POW cards, but KO refuses to trade his shadowy figure card, mentioning he thinks he's seen the last of him. The conversation shifts to TKO, KO's destructive alter ego, but KO avoids the topic. Miss Quantum enters, scolding the class for failing her quizzes, and forces them to participate in the Mystery Science Fair 21X, with projects due the next day. Dindy announces her project, finding out what triggers TKO. Despite KO's fears of hurting someone, Dindy reassures him it'll be safe in her lab. Inside, KO is impressed by her invention, especially a small bean-powered lamp. Dindy puts KO through various tests to unleash TKO, but nothing works, and KO only gets hurt. During a pizza break, KO expresses his hatred for olives, which spikes Dindy's reading, leading her to determine that KO's feelings of powerlessness trigger TKO. She runs a simulation where KO must choose to save only one of his friends from Gar's bodega, which is on fire. Feeling helpless, KO transforms into TKO and begins destroying the lab. TKO threatens to destroy Dindy's bean lamp, and Dindy realizes she's been pushing KO too hard, feeling guilty for being a bad friend. Her apology weakens TKO, allowing KO to regain control. Dindy and KO decide to switch to a safer science project about using positivity as a potential energy source. However, Miss Quantum is unimpressed, as another entrant did a similar project better. In the Season 1 finale, KO is supposed to film a dance video with Rad and Enid for his channel, but instead sneaks off to meet Dindy, raising Rad's suspicion. Rad and Enid follow them, only to discover that Dindy is trying to help KO control TKO's power. When Rad and Enid confront KO, he starts to transform, but they're interrupted by Boxman Jr. attacking the plaza. KO, Rad, and Enid struggle in the fight, and Carol is injured. KO suggests using TKO's powers to win, but his friends doubt him, causing KO to begin transforming. Inside KO's mind, TKO takes control after KO asks for help. In the physical world, TKO goes on a destructive rampage, fighting Boxman Jr. but losing control. Dindy, Enid, and Rad work together to stop TKO using their bond with KO. They hug TKO, expressing their love and appreciation, which helps KO regain control. KO strikes a deal with TKO, allowing him to use TKO's power in exchange for giving him something to fight. KO reasserts control and, with the combined power of KO and TKO, defeats Boxman Jr. Carol and Gar are initially worried, but KO reveals he's now a level 1 hero, impressing everyone. Rad and Enid apologize for doubting KO, and the friends share a lighthearted moment. Meanwhile, at Boxmoor, the robots mourn the loss of Boxman Jr., but Daryl happily steps in as the new leader. Lord Boxman is fired by Cosma and sent into the sun, with Daryl taking over as CEO of Boxmoor. In the first episode of Season 2, Rad, Enid, and KO reunite after the summer, and Rad and Enid reveal they've gone through a time skip, changing their appearance and skill. Rad is now orange like a tangerine after a tanning incident, and Enid has transformed into a mime after mistakenly joining a mime class. KO, however, hasn't changed, and feels confused by their transformation. Rad and Enid explain their intense summer experiences through flashbacks, but KO finds their changes unnecessary. When a new foe, Big Bull Demon, appears, Rad and Enid try using their new skills, but fail. Realizing their mistake, they revert to their old selves and defeat the enemy using their original strategies. KO reflects on his summer, showing flashbacks of spending time with his mom, Carol, doing normal activities. However, Enid and Rad notice that Mr. Gar appears in the flashback, hinting at a change in KO's life. The episode ends with Carol kissing Mr. Gar, revealing they've been dating, and KO realizing he had a significant change after all. In the next episode, inside KO's mind, TKO feels frustrated living in KO's world and blames shadowy figure for his existence. KO decides to help TKO find answer, and they agree to work together to investigate. They fuse into Big KO, but struggle with coordination, and during their search under the plaza, they encounter shadowy figure. After failing to fight him due to instability, KO creates a device and techno suits to merge better with TKO, forming a more powerful entity, PKO. Despite their new strength, they still struggle against shadowy figure, who reveals that TKO is simply an incarnation of KO's negative aspects, and that shadowy figure's goal was to obtain Glor. TKO doesn't fully believe shadowy figure and questions his motives, but shadowy escape. Back in the mind, KO consoles TKO, telling him that he belongs with KO as part of him. They bond and spend time playing video games together, strengthening their connection. In the other episode, on a rainy day, KO mops the bodega floor while customers rush in to buy umbrellas. Meanwhile, Professor Venomous threatens a congresswoman for 1 billion technos using a doomsday device. After receiving the technos, he leaves to clear his head, only to find Lord Boxman hiding in a garbage can, homeless after being ousted from Boxmoor. Venomous reluctantly lets Boxman stay at his house, much to Fink's irritation. The next day, Boxman causes chaos in Venomous's home, ruining his lab and accidentally triggering the doomsday device, which destroys the house. Despite their anger, Boxman impresses them with his petty villainy by building a rat trike for Fink to terrorize the plaza. At the plaza, Fink rides the trike over KO, but Rad saves him. KO suggests removing the trike's small wheel to destabilize it. The bodega men use umbrellas to detach the wheel, causing Fink to crash into Lord Boxman and Venomous. Fink, impressed with the trike, asks for another one. Impressed with Boxman's creativity, Venomous decides to buy back Boxmoor from the investor, reinstating Lord Boxman as CEO. The two villains become business partners, solidifying their alliance. Boxman. And now we have one of the best crossover episodes in cartoon history. In a destroyed city, KO is summoned by a villain named Strike to eliminate two heroes, Garnet and Ben 10. Garnet saves KO, and after brief introductions, they're attacked by Strike's blast. Ben, transformed into 4 arms, loses his Omnitrix, and Garnet loses her visor. The group escapes to find Raven, the only surviving hero in the city, who explains that Strike has been stealing powers from heroes across dimension. The newly formed team, OK Ben Let's Go Universe, decides to attack Strike's lair. Along the way, KO grabs the Medusa cannon and restores his friend's power. Together, they engage Strike, with Garnet deflecting attacks, Raven using dark energy, and Ben transforming into various stolen heroes to deliver the final blow. After defeating Strike, Garnet reprograms the blaster to restore the city and its heroes. Raven opens portals to send everyone home, and before leaving, Garnet gives KO a POW card of herself. KO returns to Gar's bodega, initially thinking it was all a dream, until he finds Garnet's POW card, confirming the adventure was real. In the Season 2 finale, the heroes of Lakewood Plaza start their day when Point, led by Foxtail and Elodie, take over the plaza and the Glorb Tree. Carol's past affiliation with Point is revealed, breaking Mr. Gar's heart, leading him to leave the plaza in despair. 2 months later, Lakewood is oppressed by Point, who are harvesting the Glorb Tree, and KO leads a resistance group with Rad, Enid, and other heroes. KO and his team attempt to reclaim the plaza using a defense system, but it lacks power. KO calls upon TKO, transforming into PKO to power the system. After a brief encounter with Miss Mummy, who reports to Foxtail, Plasmo, the mech awakens to fight back. Foxtail and Elodie attempt to stop them, but Mr. Gar and Carol return, reconciling and helping destroy Point's shields. A disempower ray is fired at Plasmo, but PKO deflects it back at the Point ship. Elodie opens the cockpit, allowing the blast to hit them, and reveals she had reduced the ray's power, only temporarily removing powers. Foxtail, realizing her mistake, apologizes and steps down as Point leader, appointing Elodie as the new leader, who brings individuality back to the organization. KO's resistance levels up, and Gar declares his team ready for secret mission, ending the episode on a positive note. In the first episode of Season 3, Sonic appears in the show. KO is excited to defend the plaza, but Rad and Enid are too tired after playing video games all night. While they sleep, Sonic the Hedgehog and Tails arrive at Gar's Hero Supply and Bodega, and KO fangirls over Sonic, showing off his fan art. Sonic invites KO to be his new little buddy, which makes Tails feel like he's being replaced. Sonic explains that he came to try the best chili dogs in the multiverse, but it turns out to be a trap set by Daryl and Jethro, who kidnap Rad and Enid. Sonic, Tails, and KO chase the robots to Boxmore. Lord Boxman planned to capture Sonic to use his speed for his machines, but instead he roboticizes KO using the Master Emerald, turning him into Metal KO controlled by Boxman. Metal KO chases Sonic using moves like the Spin Dash and Lightspeed Dash, but Sonic manages to outsmart him with Tails' help. Sonic frees KO by breaking his robotic shell, and Tails rescues both from drowning. Tails feels jealous of KO, but Sonic reassures him that KO is a friend, not a replacement, and that Tails will always be his true partner. The trio rescue Rad and Enid, defeat Lord Boxman, and take back the Master Emerald. As Sonic and Tails leave, they encourage KO to stay cool and enjoy chili dogs next time. In the next episode, KO arrives home from school and follows his after-school routine, which includes doing homework and having one cookie with milk. Carol trusts KO to stay home alone while she runs errands, reminding him to follow the rules and stay out of the construction zone. KO, feeling bored, visits TKO in his mind, and TKO complains about the rules. KO allows TKO to take over, trusting him to behave. However, TKO immediately starts breaking the rules, eating more cookies, and making a mess. As KO waits for a video game update, he starts cleaning TKO's house in his mind. Meanwhile, TKO continues causing chaos, even entering the construction zone. When KO discovers what TKO is doing in the real world, he angrily sends TKO back to his mind. KO defeats TKO in a fight and scolds him for breaking the rules and betraying his trust. TKO tries to justify his actions, but KO explains that the rules are important. KO takes responsibility for the mess when Carol returns, and she appreciates his honesty, giving him another cookie. Later, KO decides to punish TKO by banishing him to his subconscious, feeling hurt and betrayed. TKO breaks down in tears as KO leaves him. In the next episode, KO eats a bowl of oatmeal while Carol reads a newspaper. KO asks who his dad is, and Carol calmly replies with Laser Blast. KO spits out his meal. Carol shows KO Laser Blast's helmet and tells a story. Then Mr. Gar calls KO to go on a mission to go stop Boxman making a deal with Professor Venomous. Then later finding out that Professor Venomous is Laser Blast and KO's dad. In the other episode, Rad and Red Action, a very good friend of Enid's from the future, can't stand each other. According to Rad, it's because he doesn't follow her on social media and because she ate the last slice of cake. So, Rad challenges her to a battle. KO and Enid use the Red Action time capsules to stop Rad from hating Roja. but nothing changes, so they asked Rad what the real reason is. He says it's because of the video they released mocking KO in the first season, so they travel back to that episode, and Red Action talks to his past self to avoid it, saying that making fun of a little guy is wrong. In the present, they all get along great and go surfing. Red Action and Enid kiss, confirming their relationship. In the next episode, KO goes to spend the day with his father, who has stopped making weapons, and as he has told his son, has created a jelly pet named Carl, cute and harmless. However, the jelly gets aggressive, grows, and runs away, catching everything it finds with its slime. KO and his father try to stop it, but the Jello captures them. Venomous tries to convince KO to use TKO, but KO refuses. They then call Enid and Rad, who rescue them. KO is frustrated that he gave his father a chance when all he wants is to free TKO again. Finally, KO leaves, and due to his rage, TKO comes back out, locking KO in his mind. TKO makes his way to Professor Venomous, who transforms into Poison Shadow. Together, they begin a father-son relationship, but the situation doesn't look good. Dindy takes over KO's channel and tells what's going on. Times are tough as TKO and Poison Shadow are destroying everything in their path. Enid and Rad are struggling and miss their friend KO, while Gar and Carol don't know what to do. Meanwhile, Boxman breaks off his relationship with Venomous because he doesn't agree with the way Venomous works. He leaves his robot children in the square and leaves. Dindy discovers them and asks for their help to stop TKO. Perhaps with the power of love and friendship they have for each other as brothers, they can stop him. Thus, Daryl, Shannon, Raymond, Ernesto, and Michaela merge into a single robot named Boxbot Prime. Together, they fight and defeat TKO, blow him out of the sky, and then become Gar's new employees and protectors of the plaza. In the series finale, after TKO destroys the Power Card Factory, a fighting tournament is announced at the market to help everyone regain their power level. Still subconscious, KO is determined to take back control. When Shadowy Venomous makes it clear that he will destroy the world, Rad and Enid arrive at the tournament stadium for the last stand. TKO finishes off both Enid and Rad. They later find Fink and he tells them about the turbo collar. Rad and Enid are suspicious, but they pick them up anyway. Following Trad and Teenid's exit, they return to the fight and continue as TKO begins to lose power. Shadowy Venomous finds the Lakewood tree and brings it to the surface to make TKO stronger. TKO becomes stronger than ever with the power from Glorbs, and Trad and Teenid are thrown out of the ring. Meanwhile, Boxman, the Boxmore Boots, and Dindy also try to fight him, but fail after being thrown into the sun. Now that TKO has more power, Shadowy Venomous reveals that he only uses him for their powers, enraging TKO and causing him to attack Venomous. Meanwhile, KO subconsciously finds TKO's house and discovers TKO's secret box in the sandbox. He takes it out, finds an old tape recorder he had when he was young. He turns it up to full volume and starts playing it. TKO takes Fink and Venomous outside and starts attacking them all. The more he hears the music, the angrier he gets. Enid, Rad, Carol, and Gar gather together and TKO shoots them down with his power. TKO stops and returns to the mindscape. When the song stops, KO runs up to TKO and hugs him. The two talk it over and finally realize that TKO is not a separate person. He's part of KO, and KO is part of TKO, and the two merge into MKO. MKO wakes up and sees that the entire bazaar has been destroyed. The president of the universe appears to declare KO the winner of the tournament. He grants KO one wish. KO's wish is for everyone to live their best life. However, the bazaar is restored and all the heroes return, celebrating their victory. KO savors his moment with the gang and continues to live his best life. Later, KO is mopping the floor at Gar's bodega store when suddenly Rad and Enid walk in. KO realizes that he missed a heroic mission, but Enid tells him that they'll be together next time. Suddenly, time starts to jump. Rad and Enid enter the bodega store. KO thinks he missed it again. Rad and Enid tell him that he's there. A Boxbot is sent from Boxmore, but KO gets confused as time jumps. He starts fighting Daryl and Shannon, but then fights Raymond and Michaela, then Ernesto, Deathrow, a version of Jethro, and Wally the White. It is then that KO realizes that time is moving fast. He keeps fighting, hoping to reach the villain who caused the time jump. He keeps fighting and finally reaches Lord Boxman. When he defeats Lord Boxman, he realizes that this is not a problem he can solve with battle. Enid leaves for witch school, and Rad leaves to lead the Planet X Space Force. As time marches on, KO finds himself at the wedding of Mr. Gar and Carol, Nick and Joff, and Potato and Colewort. KO felt that life was moving too fast for him and he was not ready for it to end. He enters the bodega store, which looks like a movie theater showing his previous adventures. KO realizes that time isn't actually moving forward because of a villain's evil plan, it just feels that way growing up. A montage then jumps forward in time until KO is 35 plus years old, showing everyone's future life. The montage ends and a new Boxbot arrives at the market. As Gar did in the first episode, KO makes a very cool landing and puts on a show for the new employee, and KO is now known as Mr. KO. Finally, the credits roll and KO says the last line of the show.
Thank you for watching the show!
And just like that, the story of OKKO Universe comes to an end. You can write in the comments how you found the cartoon. You can also support more videos like this by liking this video. See you in the next videos. Bye!